Pay close attention to what I say, because I will not repeat myself. That was the arrogant declaration made by the mastermind from the very first second. A bank robbery takes place in the heart of New York, but strangely, the hostages and the robbers are dressed exactly alike, leaving the police completely disoriented. No one knows who is a victim and who is a perpetrator. But even more horrifying, their target is not money, but a dark, buried secret from the Nazi era. How does one rob a bank and then calmly walk out the front door without anyone noticing? The story begins with Dalton Russell, claiming he has executed a perfect bank robbery on Wall Street and walked right out the front door without getting caught. The mystery is how he actually managed that. He and his accomplices drove a truck to the Manhattan Trust Bank. Dalton went in first and disabled the surveillance system. Their meticulously arranged plot progressed from seizing the entrance to forcing everyone inside to lie flat on the floor in just a split second. A police officer approached the bank when he noticed smoke emanating from it. Before he could call for backup, Dalton appeared and announced he was holding hostages, and if the police approached the door, he would start slaughtering them. The officer reported the emergency, and the entire NYPD force descended on the scene, assessing the situation, establishing and surrounding the area while sealing off the whole block. Simultaneously, the head of Manhattan Trust, Arthur Case, received news about which of his branches was being robbed and that people were being held captive. Hearing this, Case became extremely anxious, so he contacted power broker Madeline White to find a solution to protect vital family heirlooms kept in a safety deposit box there. However, she set a rule: if he chose to reveal to her what was inside, though he didn't have to, and if he lied, the confidentiality agreement as well as the deal between them would be voided. Case didn't speak falsely but didn't speak the truth either. He merely wanted her to ensure that the secret things in that box would either stay put or evaporate. Madeline agreed to cooperate with him. At this moment, on the opposing side are two other key characters of the story, Detectives Frazier and Mitchell from the hostage negotiation team. Frazier is a seasoned police officer, too sharp to serve in the force, but he is entangled in a small trouble with internal affairs hanging over his head, a matter he perhaps wasn't involved in, as he insists to the end. The detectives quickly arrived at the bank and ducked into one of the police cars to confer with Captain Darius, the on-scene commander. He informed them that no one yet knew the number of suspects or hostages inside the building. Frazier told Darius that he would let him manage the crime scene area, and when there was more specific news, he hoped he would report back. In the meantime, he and his partner would be stationed at the mobile command unit. At the same time, the criminal group escorted the hostages down to the secure room and lined them up, then separated the bank employees and the rest. On the other side, Dalton directed the hostages to take keys and phones from their pockets or bags and hold them high for his accomplices to collect. One employee did not hand over his mobile and said he left it at home. Dalton didn't believe it, so he found a phone with his number saved in the contacts, dialed quickly, and called it. The ringing sound betrayed that it had been left in his office. When Dalton discovered this, he dragged the man back to the office and beat him brutally to deter the others. Dalton walked out with blood splattered, causing a man to fearfully hand over his keys and a young boy to hand over his game console. But the robber told the child to keep it. Next, Dalton shuffled the hostages again, forcing them to line up by gender and requiring everyone to strip down to only their underwear. Everyone complied except for an elderly woman, so his female accomplice took her to another room, while he instructed the rest to put on the protective suits and wear the masks they handed out. Afterward, an elderly hostage working at the bank began feeling unwell and said he had heart disease. Dalton and an accomplice released him. The police immediately forced him to kneel while he relayed the message that he said they were forbidden from approaching the building or else he would throw out two bodies. The robbery group checked the other hostages, then walked along the bank, past the vault and safety deposit boxes, finally stopping at a storage room containing stationery. A moment later, they were seen preparing the room for something and digging under the floor. Darius called Frazier and Mitchell over and recounted to them about the man the robbers released. The released hostage said he thought there were 4 criminals in the bank. Darius also informed the detectives that he was controlling the perimeter, that he was waiting for videotapes from the bank when the incident started, and all calls from there had been diverted to them. That was Darius's part. Now Frazier had to decide the next step. The detective thought it wasn't yet time to call the robber because he wanted to see how he would act next. While waiting, Mitchell found their truck. They would take fingerprints even though it might be a stolen vehicle. When Frazier finally decided to call in, Dalton just let it ring without picking up. The authorities received the footage from the security cameras, and they saw how the robbers had disabled all of them, guessing that they had used infrared lights to do it. Suddenly, the police saw movement in front of the bank doors. In parallel, Madeline went to meet the mayor of New York and asked him for a huge favor. She said she was monitoring the hostage situation at the bank for a client and requested him to get her inside with the police and be given every condition to carry out her mission. The mayor said that was impossible, but Madeline was insistent and he agreed to grant that special favor. The criminal group released another hostage with a message for the police worn on his body. As is often seen with American police, they saw the man was a Sikh believer but mistook him for an Arab terrorist and insulted his faith by yanking off his turban. They dragged him away quite roughly, and later he was seen in a diner, being interrogated by Fraser and the others about what he had witnessed. The Sikh man was very indignant and had to be persuaded for a while before he agreed to talk about what was happening in the back. He confirmed the information that the criminals were foreigners and said there were about 20 to 30 hostages. Next, the police read the demands sent out with the hostage. The robbers demanded 2 buses and a large jet to be delivered before 9 p.m. If the police violated the deadline, they would kill 1 hostage every hour. The bank was also rigged with plastic explosives. Darius said they couldn't get a plane and buses were maybe, while Fraser told them that until he could talk to him, they wouldn't get anything, not even a cup of coffee. Suddenly, Case was brought into the command vehicle, asking if he could help with anything and about the robbers' demands. The police said they wanted a jet and the old man asked if they wanted him to arrange one for them. They were stunned. He wanted to stay there and watch the situation unfold, but he was escorted out of the vehicle. Afterwards, the robbers demanded food be brought in, which created an opportunity for the police to plant a bug inside to hear what they were discussing. The officer in charge of the bugging device suggested they use pizza boxes so people would gather around the food more and talk. When Fraser asked her about a special bugging device she had, she told him it was a digital recorder that could capture up to 30 seconds of data. In the meantime, a hostage acted stubbornly, so the robbers reminded him who was in charge in the bank and dragged him through the rooms in front of everyone, then took him into the stationary storage room. The food finally arrived and Fraser supervised the delivery, introducing himself to Dalton. He tried to get the robber to speak and said he really wanted to talk to him if he would pick up the phone. Dalton did not reply. Later, they heard sounds from inside the bank and realized they were speaking a strange language. They guessed it was Russian. Fraser sent Mitchell to find out from the hostages if they heard any Russian or Russian accents while inside. At the bank, the robbers staged a scene with the hostages, moving one person to another room. Then a robber disguised as a hostage and returned to the first room. When the other robber took her to the room, he took another female hostage and moved her to a third room. Then, the real female robber was seen digging a hole in the storage room. A police officer of Russian descent listened to the tape and said the language wasn't Russian, but close to Bulgarian, and called it a Central European or Slavic type of language. Fraser came up with the idea to broadcast the recording over loudspeakers and find someone in the crowd outside who could identify what language it was. A construction worker recognized the language as Albanian because his ex-wife was born there and came to provide information. The police tried to contact the Albanian consulate but got nowhere, so Fraser told the worker to call his ex-wife. When the woman arrived, she viewed the assistance they needed as an opportunity to clear her parking tickets. Fraser told her to listen to the recording and say what it said. She laughed, saying she not only understood what they were saying, but also knew who was speaking. The police officer was excited, thinking he could find the real identity, so the woman repeated the request about the parking tickets before answering. When she received the desired answer, she informed them that it was the voice of the former communist leader of Albania, Enver Hoxha. Realizing what they were hearing was just a random tape, because the robbers knew they would be bugged, changed the game for the police. Meanwhile, in a series of scattered shots from the bank, Dalton was seen in the vault and around piles of money, making it questionable whether they were actually there for the money. A moment later, he and an accomplice were seen opening a safety deposit box. It contained certain documents that it seemed they had targeted from the start, as well as diamonds and small bags in a jewelry box. Dalton took the documents and the other closed the box. Around that same time, the mayor arrived in front of the bank with Madeline to speak with Detective Fraser. He introduced them to each other, and she quickly presented Fraser with a cursory reason for her presence there. The detective reluctantly accepted her alleged help, so Madeline and the mayor used a bit of old-fashioned blackmail to persuade him. A while later, Dalton finally picked up the phone and conversed with Fraser. The conversation went nowhere as Dalton only repeated the demands and threatened the detective that he would kill hostages if not met within the time frame he set. The same thing happened in the subsequent conversation. Fraser was convinced that he was the one pressuring the robber to need more time, without knowing that the person stalling for time was Dalton by playing mind games with him. Fraser offered Dalton more food, and he requested sandwiches. Meanwhile, the robbers finished digging the hole in the storage room. This would be a crucial part of how the robbery was completed. After the call with Dalton, Fraser let Madeline speak to him. She said something that made Dalton believe they should have a face-to-face dialogue. Fraser took her to the bank, worried she might make a wrong move, but Madeline told him she reached her current position by collecting friends, not enemies. She was searched upon arrival, then went in to talk to Dalton. Madeline made an offer of a short prison sentence and $2 million when he got out of prison in exchange for the contents of the safety deposit box. Dalton made it clear that he knew who Madeline was working for, and he knew Case was a Nazi collaborator during World War II when he worked in Switzerland. She only asked for the safety deposit box, causing him to show her what he found there and say he would keep it as insurance that if he was caught for the robbery, she and her boss would help him escape punishment. When Madeline walked out of the bank, she had a private conversation with Fraser, saying she had made him another offer that he was considering. Fraser asked what kind of person she thought Dalton was, and Madeline said he was smart and not a murderer. A moment later, the three police officers continued discussing Dalton, trying to understand him, when Fraser decided to change the game a bit and stop following the book because he thought Dalton knew all their moves. He called him and said he would give him the plane if he allowed him inside to check on the hostages first. Dalton agreed, and we see Fraser enter the bank in the next scene. He was taken to the hostage rooms where he saw they were all alive and well. When he saw the boy, he was refused to take the boy out. Before leaving, he promised the hostages he would get them all out of there. Fraser faced Dalton and told him about the tactical team waiting outside, but the robber saw through him. When they reached the door, Fraser lunged at him and tried to unmask him, but was blocked by another one in time. Dalton was angry and demanded the buses again. Afterward, Dalton went to the storage room and asked his accomplice how much longer until finished. He said it would take about 2 to 3 more hours. Fraser returned to the command vehicle and told Darius that Dalton was not a killer and they should wait and see what he did. When he called him back and told him to point the camera at the window. As soon as they did, they saw Dalton put a gun to a hostage and execute him on camera. Consequently, Fraser was removed from the case. Darius replaced him to command the situation. Naturally, Darius planned to send the tactical team in as soon as possible, but breaking into the bank was a tactical nightmare with very messy results. The only solution to their problem was to use rubber bullets so as not to accidentally kill anyone. Mitchell thought if anything happened again, Fraser would be the scapegoat, but he told his partner that he had a deal with Madeline and he would be promoted to detective first grade. Suddenly, before Darius raided the bank, Fraser discovered the robbers had been bugging them the whole time through a transmitter in the pizza box, so he called the captain to inform him. However, Darius decided to proceed. When Dalton heard that, he threw smoke grenades and they took the hostages out of the bank before the police could storm in. As soon as everyone ran out, the tactical team forced everyone down to the ground and restrained everyone. Then, the tactical team entered the bank to clear it or find any bodies that might be there. They checked all the rooms, vaults, and storage rooms, but found nothing. Fraser, Mitchell, and Darius went down, and the head of the tactical team told them they didn't find the hostage's body and nothing was taken from the bank. Furthermore, the police realized their weapons were toys and the hostage killing was just a hoax. Meanwhile, the hostages and all the robbers were being taken to the police station for interrogation. No one knew who was a hostage and who was a robber. Sometime later, Fraser's superior told him that the case no longer existed. Fraser didn't expect that, but he wouldn't let it go either. Before leaving, the boss told him that his problem with internal affairs had been resolved. Afterward, Fraser found a clue about a secret safety deposit box from the bank and started piecing everything together. He met Madeline again and showed her the recording of her and the mayor blackmailing him about his trouble in exchange for not releasing the recording. He asked her for information about Case's box. She only gave him a hint but told him to let it go. Madeline went to speak with Case afterwards and said that Fraser would not be a problem, but Dalton would keep the document from the box as insurance against his retaliation. Moreover, Madeline knew there were diamonds in the safe along with the document. And Case told her there was also a Cartier ring belonging to some Jewish friends whom he did not save from the Nazis because they paid too handsomely. He paid her before she left, and she pretended she didn't judge him. 1 week after the robbery, Dalton was finally seen revealing how he pulled off the robbery. He had hidden inside the bank, behind a trick wall they had built in the storage room. Dalton had the diamonds, the ring, and the document. He broke the trick wall and exited his hiding place, then walked through the bank as if he were just another customer. All his accomplices were seen waiting for him in front of the bank when Fraser and Mitchell arrived. Dalton bumped into Fraser as he was walking out of the bank, but he didn't recognize him. Fraser entered the bank with a court order to open the safety deposit box, and inside he found chewing gum, the Cartier ring, and a piece of paper reading, "Follow the ring." The detectives went to speak to Case and Frazier asked him about the box, guessing it involved something bad. Case tried to dodge all the questions, but Frazier showed him the ring, saying that once he investigated more about it, he would surely know what those bad things were. As the police left, they laughed knowing they had leverage over Case. Later, Frazier interrupted Madeline and the mayor's lunch to show them the ring and give her the number of the Office of War Crimes Issues in Washington, D.C. She would be happy to call that number, so he gave her the pin with their recording. Successfully taking down a Nazi, outsmarting a power broker and a distant mayor, the only thing left for him to do, since he also achieved detective first grade, was to go home and make love to his wife. Then we see him find a diamond that Dalton had slipped into his pocket when he bumped into him in the bank. Remember to subscribe and turn on notifications to watch more videos like this. Thank you for watching.